Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the Anvil of Apotheosis in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 112. That's not a gross. Gross is 144. Okay, we got a while to go. It's July 18th, and I'm your host, Lord Bill. Hey, Stormcast really are cool. Costello. And with me today, all the way from Blight City is...
Joshua, please stop buying up all my Skaven alt.
You've done it to yourself, okay?
So what, I'm wholly responsible for everyone deciding that Skaven's amazing?
I think because you have hyped them up so much, yeah, probably. So the fact that they are missing from the web store now, I blame you.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find any anywhere else either. I found one distributor who happened to have one hell pit that wasn't, exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying double price for a hell pit abomination.
Yeah,
Folks
not
on eBay.
for plastic crack.
Oh, it's been a wild ride with that. We could talk about that more in creation.
Okay, yeah, we certainly will. So today's show is going to be a little different. We are really looking at aiming this show toward the new hobbyist. The person who's getting into AOS for the first time, new edition drops. We're going to get some new folks, and maybe they found our podcast somehow. And hopefully we're going to just give an overview of tips and ideas and tricks and our thoughts on getting going in this crazy hobby that we enjoy. But we're also going to do a little something for the Discord. We're going to answer some questions that came from Discord, and some of them are pretty awesome. So yeah, so we're gonna hit some New Dawn. We're gonna probably do those questions. Then we're gonna talk about our own creation, but that kind of is gonna dovetail in with the whole lore section. We're gonna run over to the Discord questions and handle those. We'll start hitting battle, and it'll just sort of naturally flow into the meat of the show. So there won't be any real solid breaks, I don't think. So I closed the raffle yesterday. $645 to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Thank you all mightily. Now, we just drew the name, so we have a winner. It is closed, but that winner was anonymous on the donation, so I know who he is. But I don't want to say anything. We're not going to announce the name just yet.
But again, thank you everyone for donating. It was to a great cause. $654. Is that what it was?
$645.
$645. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little dyslexic. No, but that's great. That's great. I mean, we had a goal of 1,000, but I think what this pushed over the last charity that you did, Bill, was like $500 was the cap last time, and we exceeded that. So thank you everyone for donating to a great cause.
Yep, appreciate it. So, and the last bit of intro note is we bid a fond farewell to Jervis Johnson.
Yep.
So he's retiring from GW. I'll bet you he owns some stock too. I'll bet you he's going to be living large.
Yeah. He's probably got a few options.
I think so. But no, in truth, Jervis is responsible for so much of the lore and so many games that he helped design. And just so much stuff that he did at the company. He was like a, jack of all trades out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be different to not have one of the old guard there. So
they're aging him out, Bill. I said they're aging him out.
I know. I tell you what, this getting old stuff sucks. But no, we really want to wish him all the best in retirement and hope he enjoys the you-know-what out of it, because he's probably earned it. So.
Yeah.
Also want to announce that we are going to start recording a new show, and it's a weird one. We are going to call it Rolling Bad After Dark, Unfiltered and Unfettered. It's going to be for Patreons only. It's only going to release on the Patreon platform. And in that show, we're going to either expand on something we talked about in the main show, or we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that we talked about, or it might be something completely off the cuff. Don't know what it's going to contain. It's going to be for patrons only, and it's going to be for 18 and up.
Yeah, we're going to take the gloves off, take the filters off, and really, really dive in on some things.
Yeah, so if you want to have access to some maybe slightly less popular opinions that we might hold that we don't talk about on the show, that'll be the place to listen in. Patrons at any level will get it in their email box, and they'll be able to download it and listen to it. Whatever you want to do with it, it's up to you. But yeah, it's just a little something for the patrons to justify their helping us out on a monthly basis, which I certainly appreciate because the patrons pay for the hosting costs and some of the other miscellaneous costs it takes to do a show. So appreciate all of you patrons. Really do.
Thank you.
So should we jump off into New Dawn?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. Yeah. So nothing good.
Well, I mean, the orc stuff is good in terms of the models are amazing, and I'm sure the book, whoever is able to get it, is going to be fantastic.
Sure. Yeah. The 18 of you that were able to get a copy of Beast Snaggers.
Yep.
You're super cool because you got a codex for orcs and you got models and cards, and I'm not upset. Did you get one?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I actually was otherwise engaged right at the 11 o'clock mark, and I wasn't able to log in until I don't know, maybe 5 minutes into the queue thing, and I got in like 10 minutes later, and of course it was gone.
Yep.
And from what I gather, it was gone within minutes.
It was.
Even with the queue system.
Yep.
A lot of demand for orcs. I think GW should know that there's a lot of orc support out there, and to make such a limited run, wow. Okay. Meanwhile, there's Dominion boxes sitting at all the stores waiting for someone to claim it.
Yeah, I mean, we know at Dominion they made 4 times as much, right? And that's supposed to be launching the new edition, So they're really coming in hitting hard with that. I felt like this orc release was very similar to the Sisters of Battle box.
Yeah.
Kind of the Lumineth box, right? But particularly when 40K, like the Sisters box, I think is exactly what this was. Because that box also sold out in like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was insane. And they have to know that this is going to be in demand. And the thing is, I'm sure that there are a ton of people out there who bought it who don't play orcs.
Right.
Who have no interest in playing orcs right now. Yep. And they think like, well, maybe someday, or like a guy down at the shop said, yeah, I mean, I don't play orcs. It'll be my daughter's army. It's like, what, your 8-year-old daughter? It's going to be her army?
In 8 years when she's 16 and wants to maybe do this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I mean, of course, the models look amazing. It's been hyped. It's probably, one of the only significant 40K releases in the last couple months. You know, I mean, you had Gaunt's Ghost, but that's in stock at the store nonstop. Right?
What I kind of look at it as is a $200 codex.
Yeah. So, I mean, don't you also get the War Boss on the Great White Squig?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a great... I'm not knocking the box. I'm just kind of knocking this idea of creating the artificial demand and this fear of missing out by making all these limited releases. Now, I understand limited releases are a fantastic marketing idea. It generates the buzz. It generates all this other stuff. But it also kind of generates some bad feels for the people that really wanted it, that really double down on orcs, and through quirk of fate can't get one. And whereas, like you said, some guy that's like, well, I'm saving it for my daughter in 5 years is going to have one. And it's just, you're going to see these things up on eBay for $600.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I'm not sure it's the best model they could use. Stay tuned to the Unfettered and Unfiltered for more of our thoughts on this. Also released was the Warzone Caradon Book 2, as well as the Crusade Amidst the Ashes mission pack.
Yeah.
That's what came out yesterday. And it caught me by a little bit of surprise when I was looking around at different, videos and other podcasts, there's a lot of vitriol about this book, which caught me off guard. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are ticked off about it.
And why is that? I honestly haven't been looking at that side of things. I haven't looked at 40K in a while.
So the Warzone Caradon book, Act 2, Book of Fire, has the Be'lakor rules for 40K.
Yeah.
So if you want to play Be'lakor, boom, plunk down your money. It has updates for all of the Chaos Space Marines. So if you want to play Chaos Space Marines, boom, plunk down your money. Basically what it boils down to, and I think Winter's SEO put it kind of the best, this is a narrative book that has competitive play rules in it that you have to have in order to play your army effectively. So competitive players are basically required now to buy that book in addition to their maybe non-existent codex in order to play. And I think people see that as a money grab.
Yeah, that's really fair. Now that, I have more information there, it kind of makes me think like Chaos Space Marines to me have always just been kind of, at least in recent history, through like 8th and now into 9th, it's just kind of been like pushed to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's tons of people out there who want to play those Chaos Space Marine factions. Some of them are just so cool.
Yes.
Right? Like Alpha Legion, aside from Emperor's Children, is probably just one of the most interesting legions to me. And they have amazing books in terms of like the actual like lore. You'd want that to be fleshed out, and so they're going to be like, all right, here's this little like supplement that you absolutely need. By the way, we're changing Chaos Space Marines in 5-6 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a tease.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a kick in the teeth almost, if you will. So again, stay tuned to the Unfettered and Unfiltered for more about this. I looked through the book. I thought it was really good. There's a lot of meaty narrative stuff. And of course, there are rules. Be'lakor's rules are in there. Rules for all of the Chaos legions. Chaos chapters are in there, and they're interesting changes. Yeah. So, if you're a 40K Chaos dude, I hate to say it, but pick up the book.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, you really don't. So, don't feel left out by the book. Other sources are available. Not quite, though. Last but not least, in New Dawn, which isn't really New Dawn, this should probably be Creation, but I want to shout out Darcy Bono. I was sitting there doing my Stormcast, and I'm trying to think of how I want to base them. And it occurred to me that if I base them like I want to in the free city I created for my narrative stuff, I want to have swamp bases.
Yeah.
But I have tried swamp bases before and failed miserably. I couldn't get the look I wanted. And then just out of the blue on Saturday, or was it Saturday? Friday, Darcy dropped a swamp base video that was like exactly what I was looking for. And I was like, oh my God, thank you.
How perfect.
Yeah, it was just awesome timing. So yeah, it's a really great video. If you don't subscribe to Darcy Bono, you're missing out. She's a phenomenal painter and just has really great ideas and plans for stuff. So
Bill shared the video with me and I was able to watch it, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. She shows you sort of two ways to do the mud on the bases, because you can either go with, the GW like Sterling Battlemire, but she also has the huge minis, the
dirt texture.
Yeah, dirt texture.
Yeah.
They both turn out really well. I really like them, and actually probably going to try that huge minis product now after that.
Yeah, I went and bought their bundle of their different paste products just to try them all, because they all look really good. And I like Sterling Battlemire, and I like all of the GW texture stuff, but it is a little pricey after a while. And
yes,
there's concerns when you're doing armies at a time.
I agree with you. And then also too, like the packaging of it.
Yeah.
So of course the Battlemires in the tall bottles.
Yeah.
And you essentially have to use the GW tool to scrape it all out. Whereas, as Darcy showed in her video, the huge minis, you could just take a butter knife and just scrape that off the top, because it looks like cake batter, not cake batter, icing.
Icing.
Yeah, and you can just get it right on there. And so just in terms of accessibility, plus the amount of product that you get, that's pretty significant. And
for about the same price.
Yeah, for having gone through so many different bottles of Sterling Battlemire or, the concrete,
Agros Dunes I use a lot, or not Agros Dunes, the I forgot the desert themed one, but yeah, I love the texture paste from GW. I really do. They are they get pricey after a while.
Yep.
So yeah, and I'm always looking for cool options and neat new places to buy products from. All right, so that was kind of New Dawn. It was really super light.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for more. So this is going to be a departure for us. We're going to move on to Discord questions, and well, we're going to give it a try here. Yeah, let's just say that. You want to take the first one?
Yeah, sure. So this one comes from Tristan, Tomb King Tristan. So his question is, when introducing people to the game, do you think doing a tiered approach is better than showing the whole game? And would you run an escalation day where you introduce new rules as the days go on? So I actually really like this question.
Yeah.
Of course,
it ties into our theme really well.
Yeah, it really does. And it also ties in, I think, to what I'm seeing with the Path to Glory games that we've been running at the Warhammer Rio Rancho. And so what do I mean by that is this. So the games we start at 600 points. Anders worked in a system where as you tier up your stronghold, listen to our last episode to understand the stronghold stuff. Mm-hmm. As you tier it up to imposing, you get to go to 1,000 points, right? And then when you get to mighty, you can go to 2,000, right? It's a short event. It's like just over a month long is what it's going to ultimately be. This is just the start of the second week. Starting at 600 points, you can't take a ton of stuff.
Right.
What it can do for other people who are just starting is that they can get their start collecting box, build it, and they're roughly at 600 points, right? So I saw one guy who was coming in and just starting Slaves to Darkness for this event.
Nice.
And he just fielded the starting box.
Yeah.
It's that easy. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. So what it does is it puts you in a situation where you don't need too many models.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you grow, you can add more. So while you're in the process of building and painting, you can add more. And how we started it is that we started without battle tactics. Okay.
Yeah.
We started without grand stratagems.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Threw all that to the wayside. I think it's great. And the first map we started with didn't have objectives. It had table quarters.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And so you gain victory points by controlling the table quarters, by having the most models wholly within that quarter. And so it didn't have to do anything with objective management, right? People were freer to move around the board. It also didn't have situations where you can burn an objective, things like that, or kick it if you're a Mega Gargan
play. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really good first game for a lot of folks. And there's a couple kids that have come in who one plays Gloomspite, just started Gloomspite, and then the other actually I got into Skaven. More on that in a minute. But this was great for them to actually just start putting their models on the board, and they're really starting to understand it. And then now that we moved into the second week added objectives and added battle tactics. Okay. Starting out, I don't think you should use battle tactics or grand stratagems. If it's you're teaching someone, or even if it's two people learning,
leave that out. Yeah.
Just leave it out. It's too much management. There's too much thinking to go through. And oftentimes people will get like analysis paralysis where they're just like, oh God, what battle tactic do I do?
Well, and for a new person, it's you're hitting them with a fire hose,
Yep.
and they don't know what to pick. They're not going to be experienced. And by taking that away, you're again leveling the playing field, but you're also making it to where they can relax a little bit and not feel like they're not able to compete.
Yeah, precisely. And it's been great seeing it happen because we have had, people who've been playing their armies forever. Like there's this kid who plays Cities of Sigmar, and he went up to the new kid who had squigs, and because it was just very basic, no real shenanigans, because you don't have the crazy powerful units unless you're a jerk. And more on that when I talk about my games. And it was fairly well balanced, and the new kid actually ended up taking the win.
Nice.
Mainly because those squigs just sometimes they spike their rolls and they're just all over the board.
And that's it with squigs. It's you're either hot or you're not.
Yep.
So
it's really fun. But yes, I would start very low points, no objectives if you can handle it, because I think the narrative has some really good battle plans.
Yeah.
No grand stratagems, and then play a few games at that. Don't just be like, all right, so we're gonna play a game like this. Next one, you gotta learn something brand new. No.
Yeah.
Play a few games at the small point level. Then next week, add something in. Next week, add something in. Right? Core battalions. We didn't use those either in the first week. Now that we can start integrating them if we want to.
Okay.
Right?
Fair.
So if someone just like, I can't wrap my mind around this right now, it's like, cool, you don't have to.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then if you're not going to use core battalions, I'm not using core battalions. We're all here to have fun. This isn't like I'm going to win something crazy at the end of the event.
Yeah.
It's just we're here to have fun.
I'm going to club baby seals until I win. Yay. Okay.
Now, to answer the second part of the question, would you run Escalation Day where you introduce new rules as the day goes on? My answer would be I would do it by weeks.
Yeah.
I think that's best because then folks can know, like, all right, I'm doing it this week, but then, like, I'm going to be able to play my games next Thursday and Friday. So then, from Monday to Wednesday, they can go over that next part of the book. I'm like, okay, I think I understand it. And then when they go in the store, they can have some help and then just get used to it that week,
I would think, and I'm going to take the other side here, devil's advocate, if you will. I would think if you set up a day to teach new players the game, you could have and this is going to refer to a question that we'll get further down the road or a comment further down the road, but you could have like a phased approach where scenario 1 is put some models on the board, learn movement, learn shooting, maybe learn magic or save that. And then when that game is over and, cap it at an hour with just a few units on the board, and then you gather everybody together, you either have a slide deck or a handout or something and say, now we're going to add magic and we're going to add, something else and play another game with, again, limited units. If you set up a teaching day, you could have like a curriculum that adds everything in one day, but you'd have to be really organized about it. You can't just do it off the cuff.
Yeah, and I think at least the restrictions we have now for everyone's availability kind of hampers that.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, because I don't think we could coordinate all these different schedules.
Right.
It's sort of, that's why I say a week period. So that way you could have like maybe a handout, like you said, a curriculum.
Yeah.
And so if someone comes in, you'd be like, here you go, here's this handout, read this, and then I'll walk you through it,
Yep.
But you would have to be like diligent in there every single day, and
Yeah.
at least at the local Warhammer store, Anders is there every day it's open. So
Right.
he could do that same thing for you. But if you have a more organized play group that's just like, hey, we're 5 buddies or 6 buddies that just got into this and we're doing all this together, then you could easily coordinate schedules like, all right, guys, we're going to sit down on Friday night, and go through everything and then just try and implement it. Then Saturday we'll play a few extra games, Sunday a few extra games.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
There's ways to do it. I think.
There's all kinds of great ways to approach it. And it just got me thinking about, I would like to maybe develop a syllabus for training a new player and easing them into the game. I think that would be super handy. And you just basically give them a copy of it, be like a checklist. And so whenever you do pick up a game with that person, you can just hit the next set of... Anyway, yeah, that's something for later. All right. So next question. Oh, Biddo. Biddo brought the heat in the Discord. His question was a very simple one line. Would you marry, kill, or bed one of or the following characters? And I think we should each take a shot. So, Josh, would you bed, marry, or kill Nagash?
I think the question is we have to answer them all at once, right? Because
Okay.
it's Nagash, Sigmar, or Archaon, right? And so you have to assign. I'm going to say Boff, marry or kill.
Okay.
Nagash, Sigmar, Archaon. Right?
Oh,
And I've been Biddo, dang it, man! Like
These are not nice choices.
All right. So I would try and keep this as PG-13 as possible.
Thank you.
So we have to look at the relative traits. Archaon doesn't care about you. Archaon's going to do his thing no matter what.
Yes.
Right? He's powerful. He'll come in. He'll wreck something. He'll leave. You know, it's all about him being willy-nilly. So I don't think he's a good candidate for Mary. Right? Nagash, well, he's so greedy. It's all about him. He wants it all to himself, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a problem for Mary as well. Sigmar. All right, so here's going to be my answer, Bill. Boff Archaon, marry Sigmar, kill Nagash.
Wow. Okay. All right. See, now I'm like, of the 3 listed, there's only one that isn't a clown shoe. So I'm marrying Archaon. Now, as far as the other 2, yeah, definitely killing Nagash. He's an idiot. So that leaves oh, Sigmar, here I come. He needs it. He yeah. Okay. After Dark. Yeah.
Thanks, Biddo.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
so
Biddo.
much.
Real easy one to do on a family-friendly show. I love that question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Stay tuned for After Dark. All right. Next one comes from Toy Soldier Fun Harry. This question: what is the coolest thing you've read or learned about Gur from the new book that you didn't know before?
Okay, so when we did our realm breakdowns, I think I did Gur. And so I read a lot about Gur. And honestly, I didn't see anything in the new book that was real shocking, other than how they really fleshed it out and made it more of a living realm. And, you know, when you see the map that they made for Gur, I think the biggest thing for me was looking at that map, how it's literally the continents are trying to eat each other. Yeah. I was just like, that is so that is so Mortal Realms that I fell in love with Gur all over again, simply because it's just any realm where the rocks are trying to kill you. It's so high fantasy. It's no more of this stick up the butt Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff. You know, I'm a Reiklander. You're an idiot. Shut up. You know, now you got the realm trying to eat your feet. I love it. And so for me, I would have to say the map was probably the biggest, most cool thing I saw.
Yeah, it's interesting when an entire realm is essentially like a mimic, right?
Yeah.
Like everything's trying to get you. The thing for me that I thought was most interesting actually came from the Amberstone Watch supplement part. I think it was in there. I think it was. But the Cruel Boys, and again, it has to go to the realm being like actually alive, where you find out the Cruel Boys, like their whole thing with Kragnos is that, and sorry if you haven't read the spoilers, but the whole thing with Kragnos is that they don't want to like worship Kragnos. They want to put him into a frenzy that is going to cause him to go smash more stuff.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're brewing these poisons that they intend to actually put into, I guess you could say roughly, the veins of the realm where his homeland is.
Yeah.
And just poison it and, you know, not necessarily kill it, but like make it sick.
Yeah.
And then be like, hey, Kragnos, it was them that did that. But the whole concept that they could literally poison the ground as if it was a living entity, right, was really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool.
I truly love this approach GW is taking with the realm per year, because fleshing out things like that, expanding on what you know about the realm already, it's just so much fun to see how off the hook they're going to go with all of these. And yeah, you know, kudos to them for making that hard decision, because, you know, one realm per year, it's going to take a while to get there.
Yeah.
So, but I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm here for it.
Yep.
And, you know, they haven't necessarily done it so overtly like with Gur, but I think I remember back, was it the Firestorm campaign is in Akshi? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
AOS is first coming out, you know, like they did kind of set a precedence for this, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I think they're taking it up to 11 now.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Big way. Yeah. Awesome. And so the last of our Discord questions comes from Charles Fox. And his is a serious question, and I like that question a lot. It's how do you handle opponents who are pissed off and argumentative? You know, basically that game that you always dread having, but every now and again you have, you know, when you play tournaments and you play in areas that aren't your home and you don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
For me, it's always really, really hard because I hate that kind of friction in a game. Mm-hmm. I'm here for 2.5 hours to throw down and have some fun playing a game. And if you're going to be questioning everything and arguing every placement, every rule, it just saps the fun out of it. And I hate wasting my time. So I will literally, a lot of times, just look at the person and say, what are you really looking for here? What are you really trying to get out of this game? Do you just want the win to move forward? Because if that's all you're here for and you're going to be like this the whole game, take the win, take the points, see you around, dude. That's me. I don't like wasting my time when I could be out having a beer with people I enjoy being with. What about you?
Anytime I've dealt with this in any competitive sense. So I do try to resolve it first. And just some of my history, I used to work at a call center, both as like a supervisor and I took escalated calls. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to dealing with unhappy customers, you know, that kind of thing. And so I always try to, you know, in a way, figure it out. It's like, so what's going on? You're arguing with me on everything here. How can we resolve this? Right? So what's the issue here? What's the real issue? Sometimes you can get them to just say like, sorry, man, I had a bad game last time. And I was like, cool, let's take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy this. Let's
go have a beer and then come back.
Yeah.
You know, we missed 20 minutes of the game, but if we both come back and we're cool, hey, you know, it'll go a lot quicker.
Yeah. Let's take a break. Let's go for a walk. You know, let's chat just as people, right? Not even in the game. Let's go do that real quick, come back. Something like that, you know, to try and ease the tensions.
De-escalate.
Yeah, exactly. But if they're just like a stone wall, I got to be frank, I want to beat them more. Right? And so then what I start doing is I start being very meticulous about everything. Because, you know, there's something where, you know, you just kind of have an understanding of how the game is supposed to flow. Yeah. Right? But then what I would do is every single time I'd like move a model, be like, do you agree with me that is 6 inches? Okay. All right. Now I'm moving all these models. Do you agree with me that I have now moved them exactly 6 inches for their move?
I love it.
Okay. And so then I make it so that every single thing is set in stone. Mm-hmm. But if they're just being nasty, I immediately get a third party involved.
Yeah.
Right. Get a judge, get, you know, a neutral third party, someone come in here, you know, just like, and if they're being abusive, you need to put the kibosh on that immediately. This is a fun game. I know we've got competitive stuff going on here, but I will not take that abuse. And in fact, I'm reporting you to the judge right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Just don't take people's crap, right? Just make sure you stand up for yourself, right? Of course, you don't want to be in a situation where they're just like nitpicking and nasty and all that. It's not fun. But, you know, I sometimes become petty and I want to just beat them even more. So I might take those steps. But certainly you should be in a situation where you can always bring someone else into the conversation. At a tournament, get a judge.
Yep.
Have them come over and just explain, here's what I'm experiencing in this game with this individual, right? And they're free to give their side of the events, you know, but I just needed a neutral third party here for this. So that's how I would handle it. Like I'm usually had to handle that when I was playing Magic a lot.
Oh yeah.
And those dudes get like hyper competitive. I'm like, bro, we're in a Hastings. Like what?
Yeah, honestly.
it doesn't matter, you know.
What's at stake here?
Yeah. I know you got your $2,000, you know, standard deck. I don't know. This stuff's gonna cycle out. I don't know why you spent that much money, and I know you're a try hard, you know, but just like when you start getting nasty, it's not fun.
Right.
So I always say that if you don't know what to do, get someone else involved.
Get a judge.
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest fear when playing any game is that I will be seen as that person. Mm-hmm. And I try really, really hard. Now, if I have an honest to God question about what you just did, because I don't understand it from a rules perspective, I'm going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Can Nagash really move 16 inches and then charge? I don't think he had run and charge. You know,
yeah.
I'm not saying I know every rule from every book, far from it. But I do know enough of the basics to know that some things don't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not afraid to ask a question, but I also temper that with don't be that guy that's asking a question about every single unit. Look it up. I mean, I have access to the same books that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I live in fear of being that person. And sometimes it causes me to not ask the question that I probably should have. And I know at LVO a couple of years ago, I got a little salty playing a game with a guy, mostly because his stuff was doing things that I was not really familiar. And this was the first LVO with AOS in it. So I had not digested all the rules from all the factions. And his guys were just doing stuff that was amazing. And, when I looked back afterwards, I'm like, yeah, some of his units have those abilities, but those didn't. And that I never felt like he was trying to cheat. I think he just didn't know it as much as I didn't know it. So I didn't want to be that person. So I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm opposite to you. I don't go into that I will kill you mode.
One of the things I do, and I don't want to be that guy either, but I always just try and give like reminders, but not until someone makes a mistake. Like if I'm playing an opponent, and I'm like, I let them do the thing and then be like, all right, cool. So next time, remember that you need to declare all out defense when I declare my attack, not after I roll my dice.
Yep.
And it's just like, just please remember that, for the future, now you've been told if you do it again, then we might have to have a conversation about that, But I also like when people correct me too, just like, actually, real quick, that does that. And you're like, oh, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, here, let me fix that, Because, we're all learning a lot still. It's the same game, but, things are just different enough.
Things are different now. And, yeah, we're all kind of on a more even playing field because not everyone knows every single rule right now. Well, I'm sure you do, but I don't.
I do not.
I don't.
I haven't had time to memorize everything yet.
Yep.
And what I'd say is just sort of, again, tagging onto the new hobbyists, is that you're at the store and you think they're pulling the wool over your eyes or, that kind of a thing. Just go get someone.
Yeah.
Right. If you're at the Warhammer Rio Rancho store and I'm there, come get me. Go get Anders. If Bill's in there for not just 20 minutes buying Stormcast, you can always ask Bill, right? Anytime, just go get someone.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be abused or dealing with an unfun situation. This is just a game.
Yeah. We're playing with plastic army men. We're just advanced about it, but we're really still making pew pew noises and having fun. Okay. Those were the Discord questions, and I think they were pretty good myself. I enjoyed them, most of them.
Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit more sprinkled in on some of the new hobby stuff too. So.
Yeah, some of it made sense to be in other places because it more dovetailed into other areas. The last 2 weeks for battle, you've gotten some Path to Glory games in.
Yes,
Illuminate us.
Actually, I don't think I talked about my 2,000 point game against.
Oh no, against yeah.
Yeah, so that was a match play game. Let me talk about that first, and then I'll get into Path to Glory. So I played a 2,000 point game against Kai down at the shop. I was playing Skaven, just trying to try out a little bit of some list ideas, see how certain things work. Kai he's probably going to go with us to New Orleans too, so he's trying to develop a Nurgle list to see if it works. So he's had Nurgle forever. It's like one of the armies he's never let go of, even though he's traded quite a few. So he was trying to do Blight King spam with Great Unclean One and the Glotkin.
Yes, Glotkin.
He also had the Harbinger of Decay, just so he can make sure he gets that 5-up on a 5-up ward on all the fatties.
So good.
It was crazy. We played the Vice out of the new.
I love that one.
It's so interesting. I love that it puts you on an inevitable collision course with your opponent. And so how that one works is that you have objectives in the corners of the map, and then you deploy on half of the board. So what, on the long edge?
On the long halves.
Yeah. And then you have to be 12 inches back from your opponent's territory. It's split right down the middle. And then on turn 2, the objectives all move into, halfway to the middle. So it's like 18.6 inches or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. Or 18.5. But it comes in just that little bit. Then on turn 4, 3 of the objectives go away. and there's one in the middle, right? They're all prime objectives, so you can't burn any of them.
Right.
So it's all about, can you interrupt your opponent from capping objectives before it gets to the middle?
Yes.
So I played my Skaven list. I had, 2 units of 20 clan rats, 1 brick of 40. I had Thankful on Bone Ripper. I had 2 rattling guns.
Oh, God.
I had a Bombardier, a Plague Priest,
Jesus.
and Verminlord Warpseer. And then I took the Warp Lightning Vortex. And the game was pretty crazy.
It was. It was fun.
It went for a long time. You figure you're dealing with Nurgle, right?
Yeah.
There's a fatties. Oh, I also brought 3 Storm Fiends. Sorry about that.
No.
3 Storm Fiends kitted with Wind Launcher, Rattling Gun, and Shock Gauntlets. And it went to the 5th round.
Yeah.
The one thing that decided it all was on turn 1, I teleported 20 clan rats through a gnaw hole.
Yeah.
Then on turn 2, because I got the double, I moved them up and capped one of Kai's objectives because he couldn't get his units there fast enough. And so I denied him that point for a turn, and it also gave me score more.
Yeah,
right?
score more. Yeah.
Then when it got down to the middle, God, it was such a grind. Going into the 5th battle round, I was going to deny him his grand stratagem because his was have a battle line alive at the end of it.
Yeah.
And going into 5th battle round, I got top of 5. And he had 1 Blight King left with 1 wound in combat with my Verminlord Warpseer. And so I was going to deny him that. He had the Glotkin within range of the center, but I also had Thankful, so we have 2 monsters contesting there. But then I was able to edge in just enough clan rats to be the tiebreaker on it. And so I was going to win the game before grand stratagems, I was going to win by 4 points, I think is what it was. And then mine was keep a wizard alive.
Yeah. So. Go figure.
Yeah. And the thing is, the Warp Lightning Vortex, so I know that like you're not zoned out. Like you can pass through endless spells.
Sure.
But the way I had it set up in relation to where my clan rats were, the bases for his Great Unclean One and his Glotkin were too big.
Yep. That's the killer.
It was great. Like there was no way for him to get to a point where he could be more than 3 inches away from the clan rats because of how the scenery was set up without also being on top of a Warp Lightning Vortex node. So it kept the Glotkin at bay. And in fact, that's what killed off his Harbinger of Decay on turn 2. I spiked a 6 on the on the roll. So I was like, oh, sorry, bro.
Not.
Feels bad, man. Feels bad. And, it's the Warp Lightning Vortex. I took Mortal Wounds too, but I knew that gamble, and I knew that, with certain things like Rally, I'd be able to get through it. So that was a fun game. It took like 3 hours because we, like, every single turn, we're like, okay, we talked through it. Like, all right, battle tactic. What's my battle tactic?
What are we doing now? Yeah.
Okay. Heroic action. It's my turn. I get to pick first. I'm going to do this one. All right, Kai, what is your, and so like it was long. It was tedious. Moving 40 rats is still moving 40 rats.
Moving 40 rats. Yeah. It's
I recommend movement trays. We got to see Unleash Hell from Thankful.
Oh, God.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, some Blight Kings, charged into my Storm Fiends, and they were within 9 inches with Thankful.
Oh, jeez.
Or actually, they were more like 6 because he was able to hit all of the Blight Kings. Yeah. And I peeled like 3 of them, had 1 at half health. So there was 1.5 Blight Kings left essentially from his Overwatch. And I was like, I can't even imagine if that was like a Horde unit. Are you kidding me? It's just gone. Yeah, it's the real deal, folks. I mean, Thankful's expensive, but I found he was worth his points.
Yeah, probably.
With his casting, with his flame throwing, heck, just even in melee, like his clubbing blows, it's just smashing, fatties. Phrasing. Sorry, it's not after dark yet, guys.
It's not after dark yet. Come on.
So then, going into the narrative event, because I'm playing Skaven for the competitive stuff, I was like, I'll just do a fun Skaven list. And ultimately, I decided I don't think I'm going to do Skaven for Path to Glory because I'm doing it competitively.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that split in a second. But I went with a Molder list. I was like, Molder's going to be super fun. So I had a little fun starting list. I had a Master Molder.
Yeah.
I had a Hell Pit Abomination that I was able to get online just in time.
Ooh.
Ultimately, that's kind of why I strayed away from it, because I'm not going to be able to kit out a Molder army at this rate with how product is out of stock in so many places.
It's just so ridiculous.
It is. 6 giant rats, Master Molder, 4 rat ogres, and a Hell Pit Abomination, and they were a pack. They were just So I played it on the one of the starting battle plan that we did, where it's cap the quarters of the board, right. And I played the first one against Castillo, who's playing Tzeentch.
Yes,
and he had 10 of the what a little disciple dudes, the normal guys, acolytes, yeah, the Kyric acolytes. He had a Magister on disc. Mm-hmm. He had a Mind Stealer's Sphinx.
Yep.
And then 3 Skyfires.
Yeah.
And a small board, really small board.
It's a tiny board.
Yeah. It's essentially a half board.
At 600 points, yeah.
Yeah. My Master Molder, gives the +1 to hit. And then I gave him the artifact that's +1 to wound. Only within 13. And then he also had the command trait where if one of my fighting beast units died, I could roll a dice on a 4-up.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's usually 5-up. On this, it's a 4-up. So if my rat ogres died, I could roll back and then see if I can get them on the board.
It's a nice, friendly, fun list.
Right?
Oh, God.
So first round of shooting, because Castillo got the first turn. He got turn 1. And he's like, I'm going to try and censor the alpha, right?
Yeah.
So it comes in, and he's only able to peel off 1 rat ogre.
Oh, God.
Because and as you told me, Bill, right before I played that game, you're like, be a man, roll for the mutations.
Yeah.
So I rolled for the mutations. So rat ogre's got these 6 wounds, 4-up save, which I was like, I was going to pick that anyway, but thank God.
But I rolled it. So.
The Hell Pit Abomination got the D3 regeneration in every hero phase.
Yes.
Which ended up being significant.
Would imagine.
Yeah. So turn 1, he peels them off. Okay, I get bottom 1. I move up, just trying to, can I get in range? Hell Pit has 2d6 movement, right? Like, it's so random unless you get the, 7-inch move from the mutation. So I don't quite get in range. My rat ogres pop a couple shots off. I kill 1 acolyte. I just managed to get 1 hit through, and then it was 1 damage on the D3 from their little guns. I'm like, oh crap! So he's gonna blow me out the board now. Except I got the double turn.
Oh God!
And then it all went down. This is where I saw the strength of the Hell Pit. So based on how he positioned his acolytes and his magister was too close to the acolytes.
Oh no!
So when I did my charge, I was able to kind of swing around the side and get it so that way his magister was within range of the flailing fists, which is like their hardest hitting attack, right? And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm going to dump all these attacks into the acolytes, and then I'm going to dump the fists into your magister. And so magister wiped off the board, just gone, just dead.
That list is done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So smash, and then he wipes the acolytes to a man. And I was just like, okay, I know why people are scared of these Hell Pit things now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they degrade really fast, but holy crap.
I live in fear of the Hell Pit Abomination. My buddy Matt came out here one year. He has some family out here, and so they drove out from the East Coast, and I played my Nurgle against his Skaven. Go figure. When I charged a unit, I think I charged a unit of either Plague Monks or Clan. Yeah, it was Plague Monks. And I mistakenly moved to where the Hell Pit got into combat.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God, was I wiped.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. It was hellish.
Yeah. No, I think it lives up to its name. And in a monster meta where you have the monster abilities, it's just absurd. Like, it's so good. So then, so I wipe out those 2. The Sphinx had run back into a corner to stop me from porting through a gnaw hole and just remained there. So then I just was like, all right, I got to take out these Skyfires.
Yeah.
Right. But how it turned out, because of how I'd, charged and where the positioning of my other units were, like there's not that much board. So he swings around, trying to get away from the Hell Pit because they were pretty close. They were probably within like about 8 inches at that point. So they go to the other table corner, and he's like, well, essentially like, you killed my magister, so I'm going to shoot your dude.
Yeah.
Right. And so then he just dumps his fate dice to just obliterate my Master Molder.
Sure.
And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever. Thanks. And so then we go to the next turn. I again get, top of 3. So then I move my giant rats and my rat ogres over. send the giant rats in order to absorb Unleash Hell. He ended up actually being out of command points with a redeploy that he tried to do.
Oh, no.
Right? And so I was like, oh, so you can't unleash hell. So I, shot the rats in anyway because they needed to get their little bites in.
Sure.
And then the rat ogres came and just smashed them. Like, just there goes all of your Skyfires. Then I had the Hell Pit run back to the Mindstealer Sphinx, and they had a monster battle for 2 turns.
Sure.
It was a good time. But I was just like, that Hell Pit Abomination is mean. It's just mean.
It's a beast. Yeah.
After that, just like, I'm not going to be able to get all these models in time. I'm playing them competitively. I want to do something to sort of like cleanse my palate. And one of the things that for our play group, in terms of everyone's getting ready for New Orleans, I'm kind of like taking on the Daughters of Cain side of it because I pretty much got the army.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to have to play them against other people so we can learn it. Plus, it'll probably be my backup army as well for New Orleans.
Just in case.
Yeah. It's like, I'll play that. So I started basic.
Basic.
Blood Rack Medusa, 5 of the bow snakes, and 10-man reinforced unit of the spear snakes.
God.
And I played a game against KO.
Mm-hmm. And
so this dude was coming in with the Engine Master in dirigible suit. He had 5 Thunderers, 10 Arcanaut Company, and the Grunstock Gun Hauler. So he's like, all right. So I explained to him my army. I'm like, okay, so everything's on a 5-up save, but I'm Hagnar, and so I've got the command trait, so I have a 5-up ward. So I explained to him all that stuff, and so he's like, turn 1, he decides he's going to shoot in with his gun hauler and his Engine Master. He's like, I'm going to kill your bow snakes. That's my battle tactic for this turn.
No.
I was like, okay.
No.
And so then in shooting, he takes off 2 snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's probably about right. But frankly, that was him dumping the gun hauler and the Engine Master into it. I did manage to get some 6-up saves and then do pretty decent on the wards. So then he charges the gun hauler in.
Oh, wow.
And immediately I unleash hell. Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, cool, actually, I haven't done this yet with this army. Just see if these bow snakes do anything. And I plinked 2 wounds off of him in the unleash hell. It's not bad. Then he goes right to come. He's like, all right, attack you with my boarding weapons, and then he rolls his dice and everything. Like, cool. I'm getting ready because he just whiffed. Right.
Oh, God.
And then I am like, all right, so I'll attack back with the bow snakes. The thing is, the gun hauler got within 3 inches of the Medusa as well.
Oh, God.
So then I pile the bow snakes around so that way they get to the point where they're contesting the objective. And then I attack with the bow snakes. They plink another wound off. And then he's like, oh, I forgot to do my bombs. And I was like, oh, I forgot you had bombs.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's like one of those things like, now you know for next time, right?
Yeah.
So then I shuffle the Medusa in and I'm able to get it down to 7 wounds. Then it goes to the next turn and I say mine is I'm going to take an objective away from you because I wasn't contesting it enough. I realized because the gun hauler has 10 wounds, so it counted as 2 models, and so my model was just 1.
Yeah.
It's like crap, so I didn't get that. So he got hold 1, hold 2, hold more. He tried shooting the spear snakes with his Thunderers. He peeled off 2. I was able to charge into his Engine Master with them. By the way, I flopped Mind Razor every single turn.
Oh,
it was just like,
oh boy.
I rolled a 5 every single time.
Wow.
I was like, oh man, I wish I had the command trait to let me reroll 1. So what they get in, they drop, let's see, how many wounds? He has 7 wounds. They did 4 damage to him because he, all defense, so he was able to save it. Hits back, takes another snake off, and then it's the end of combat. They've got the Medusa stairs. So I'm like, all right, so for every 3 up, you take a mortal. Pow, and just did I think 8 mortal wounds to it. No,
God.
7 mortal wounds. 7 mortal wounds. So that went. And then I was able to take down the gun hauler in that combat as well. He did try dropping the bombs on the snakes that time. He remembered it. And it's like, all right, on a 2-up, D6 damage, because he has that, special thing once per game. 1. And I was like, oof.
Oh.
Oof.
Oh.
Wiped him, took him to a man. And that was pretty fun. I've been watching a lot of the Path to Glory too. A lot of really interesting armies. Someone playing Skaven, much more Scryer style list in a way. 2 Bombardiers, 2 Rattling Guns, Clan Rats, Warp Lightning Vortex, probably bringing Stormfiends on next. Squig Kid, I let him use some of my squigs because, he's a kid. He doesn't have the money necessarily to buy all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I left a Mangler. I left a bunch of my painted squigs for him to, use and yeah, cool. So just ask Anders anytime you want to use them. He'll pull them out for you, give them back to him afterwards. and he'll put it back in the display case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been really fun seeing people play.
Oh, yeah.
I saw ogres just run through a bunch of people yesterday.
It's so much fun to go to the game store now and see people actually throwing down.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's as soon as I build my castigators, I'll be able to join in. So that's going to be today after this show.
Heck yeah.
For sure.
All right. So that was a lot.
Now,
that was a lot.
I want to we had a Discord question, but it fits here. Yeah. And it comes from Excalibur Nick. And he's like, what are some house rules or clarifications that you have found helpful in your Path to Glory campaign? So I think you kind of mentioned how he's going to grow it and how you are not using, well, in the first week, didn't use the strategic objectives and the battle tactics. And now we're kind of growing into that. So what else? Any other house rules you want to talk about?
Anders had a really cool house rule where it's if you bring in a painted piece of terrain that's not a faction terrain, right? That you can set up on the board when you play the games. And because of that, you get a free territory, right?
Oh.
And so that was actually really cool because then, you know, people like have incentive to go paint. When we get to these big games and it requires so much terrain for each game, the shop doesn't have that much, right? So we can all bring in our own and help pitch in, and, you know, we get as like, say, look at my cool Bloody Gate thing that I did, you know? So that's actually really fun.
That's a good idea, too.
It is. Good incentives. I like doing the whole thing where you can't go to 1,000 points until you upgrade your stronghold.
Yeah. I like that.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense in terms of understanding your progression, that kind of thing. And narratively, it makes sense. Like, oh, we've got a bigger stronghold. We can have more troops. Let's do this. Right?
Yeah.
I like that one. Oh, one of the other things we did too is that, so for territories at the 600 point level, it doesn't cost you anything to get them. So when you roll for your territory, you can get it. Of course, you have your maximum number, which is three plus the additional you can get for bringing in a painted piece of terrain.
Right.
But once you hit imposing, right, once you're at the 1,000 point range, you have to pay for it.
You pay the cost. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really fun little thing. And then in terms of clarifications, like really going through the aftermath sequencing is important.
Oh,
you know, really understanding that. And just follow it step by step for a reason, where you go through and say, okay, so, another cool thing that Anders did, sorry for a house rule. Yeah. When you get renown points, right? If the model's painted or the unit is painted, they get an additional renown point.
I like it.
Right? So
that's so GW's store.
It is. I mean, that way it actually looks really cool when you have your painted army on the field, right?
And it's motivation to, you know, get it done.
Heck, that's what got me to finish painting up my spear snakes in stone form and my Bloodwrack Medusa.
Well, do they count as 3-color minimum? I love the stone snakes. I really do. Hey, speaking of that, let's jump into creation real quick.
Let's do it.
Okay, because we kind of skipped creation, but we go back to it now. So you painted some stone snakes.
Stone snakes, yeah. My spear snakes is, you know, originally I was going to try and paint them up like I was doing the rest of my snakes, which was they're my Cali girls, right? So blonde hair, blue eyes, bright pink armor with like bright blue pants for my witch elves and like tails for the bow snakes. And, you know, like looking over them, they have the masks on and everything.
Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. But like looking at it, I was like, I just want to do something different.
Yeah.
And apparently at one point when I had been transporting some of them, one of the heads popped off of one of the models. I was looking at it like, can I do them without heads? You know, like, do I have to glue this thing back on? I was like, wait, there's a way to do that if they are statues, right? So I started like clipping bits apart, you know, looking like their statues are like broken. Like one has like the tail like cracked through, or arms or spears are broken and stuck in the ground. And then, you know, I went over them Mechanica Standard, Nuln Oil, dry brush up Administratum. But then I wanted to also make it look like they are kind of actively turning into stone.
Yeah.
And so I did like a little bit of some contrast on some of the clothing, so but it still has that gray coming through.
Yeah.
And then like dry brushing metals where the metals are. And then the one that has the heart in her hand. I even went over that with Blood for the Blood God.
Sure.
Because like it's like that's not part of her, but it turned to stone.
But it's hidden that way. Yeah. I like it.
Then the Bloodwrack Medusa, just because it's so similar. I did do skin tones on her. She has bright
Oh, yeah.
like Sybarite green snake hair, matches her staff. And then I did some of the stone look on her tendrils, her snakes that are on her bottom. Yeah, that's what I did for.
It's a great cohesive look. So well done.
Thanks. I didn't paint it this week, but the Bloodrack Viper, the endless spell, I've got that in there too.
God, yeah, that looks so nice.
It's like one of my favorite models GW's made.
It's one of the best pieces ever done. It's used in so many D&D games.
Oh, it has to be.
100%
has to be.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, that's such a great piece.
I went with the bloody look to it because I do actually have like blood on the bases for the girls because my concept is that it's a white shore, but it's bloody water lapping up on the shore.
Nice. Red tide.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
But I think you could paint that thing any way you want to. Like it could look like it's water, like it's coming out of a lake or something. It's so cool.
I have seen on Instagram and just all over the internet, so many people did so many amazing things with that critter. Oh, I love it. And it's a good spell. So
it's definitely is.
All right, what else did you do?
Oh, I've been playing some Necromunda Hive War.
You and me both.
Well, actually not Hive War. No, I was playing Hired Gun. You're playing Hive War.
Or no, Hired Gun, the new one.
Yeah.
The new first-person shooter. I'm sorry, I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I played Hive War before, and it's confusing.
Yeah.
But, I played, been playing Hired Gun quite a bit because I wanted to get it when it first, like when it was coming out. I was like, all right, June 30th. Remember that? I didn't remember until like halfway through July, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, crap, did that come out?
Yep.
I go find it. Yeah, I did. Play it on the PS4. Definitely think it'll be better on the PS5 or PC. A little buggy at times, but it hasn't like really influenced like how I feel about it. And when I say buggy, it's crashed twice, but not when it mattered. Like I was in Martyr's Path or whatever the hub is.
Yeah.
Fun, dynamic, super fast pace. It's essentially Doom Eternal and Necromunda.
Yeah. It's a better Doom than Doom.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I don't think the takedowns are as fluid.
No.
Because there's so many times I'll be running up to an enemy, do a takedown, and for some reason it doesn't register, and then I'm just standing in front of them reloading my gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that sucks. And then I have to like dash back. But it's definitely meant to be like, it feels super fast paced. And in a way it is, right? But like when you're getting your score at the end, you know how you can get your ranking. It's about style, not about speed.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah. So like I have such a hard time because I'm just like, yeah, get to the end. I'm like, wait, I probably missed all the treasure chests, didn't I? Crap. Being able to upgrade your Mastiff, upgrade your Bionics.
That is a crazy. I love the dog. I love what he lets you do. And I love that he's not there constantly. You have to really summon him and he boops after a little while. Mm-hmm. So it's a really neat mechanic. I don't know. I found it to be very repetitive in the missions.
Mm-hmm.
I like the weapon upgrade stuff, but I mean, maybe as I get further and further along, there'll be more and better weapons, but these are just like rehashing the same weapon over and over. I'd like to see a little bit more. I want to get a bolter. Ugh, God.
So where I'm at, I've unlocked bolters, heavy bolters, auto cannons, like full on like minigun style auto cannons.
I love that.
I personally use a plasma gun upgraded to have 30 in the clip.
Nice.
That thing hits like a truck.
Yeah.
Plasma's no joke in that game.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, like the upgrade options, like as they come and go, but like as you hit certain missions, and I think I'm on mission 9 or something like that, they really start to expand what kind of weapons you can get.
Yeah.
What tiers they're at. Sometimes you get some really good, like I got purple drop for my armor already, so that's been super helpful. But sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes like the missions are just so difficult.
Oh man, yeah.
Like it's like there's no way I can win this with my gear.
Yeah.
So then you need to back out, go to another mission, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think it's fun. I'm like, I don't play it like I'm not sitting down and playing it for like hours on end.
Yeah, I like to do it just if I have a little bit of time. I just jump in and do a mission real quick. And yeah, it's fun for that. I don't think I would devote myself like I did to Inquisitor Martyr or something, Yeah, it's fun.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Yep.
Bill, what you been up to?
Okay, so I was actually out of pocket for a lot of this week. But I did manage to paint 5 Liberators and they were basically test models because I wanted to see if the scheme idea was going to work. And I actually think it came out okay. I like them. I like the way it looks, and it's reasonably easy to paint. So I put pictures up on the Facebook page and in the Discord, I think. So if you want to see them, run over there, take a look. I got a little angry at the clutter on my desk yesterday. I jumped into my Tinkercad and designed up a new paint cup that holds water, but also has brush rack on it.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah,
it'll hold water and my brushes. And, because I have all these things sitting on my desk, to hold water and to hold brushes and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, I have like 4 little things that are chewing up desk space, and I want one. So I made it.
No, it looks great. Looks super, like it's got a lot of utility to it, and it's simple.
All it does is hold water and brushes. That's all I really, really want. I'll throw the STLs up on the Facebook page if anybody wants them. I don't know. It's easy. But first I have to paint the ones for Path to Glory.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure that my 2K list comes from my 600 point list is contained within my 2,000 point list, so that I'll be able to double up on the experience of playing them.
Yep. Got to double tap that.
So I think that's it for everything until we jump into our lore section, which is going to be pretty much all about new hobbyists. And what we're going to do here in the lore, we're talking about new hobbyists. We're going to talk about, how to get started, what to use to get started, and then some ideas about building, painting, playing, how to approach those different things. This is going to be a 10,000 foot view. We're not going to get in the weeds of, this is how you build a model. Just general tips and tricks and thoughts about these different things, because we don't want to do another 3-hour show, but just something to help the new player and maybe give them some resources to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many great videos out there, and for every channel that we mention, there's probably 5 more just like it that we've never heard about. Again, if you have a great resource, throw it in the Discord, throw it up on Facebook, and we'll get it out there. But for right now, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come in for the New Hobby Expo.
Sounds good.
All right, so are we ready to jump into how new folks are going to get into this crazy game we love?
Yeah, I definitely think we can. And looking at our agenda, it looks like we've got a lot to go through. But to be frank, this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're not going to dwell on certain things, not dive into, the merits of this start collecting box versus this start collecting versus this kit versus that kit. Again, 10,000 foot view, and just someone walks into a store. What do you do? This is your first time. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? I mean, getting started boxes is a place for us to get started. Generally speaking, like points wise, those boxes are going to be like 500 to 600 points.
Yeah, they're all going to be in that range.
And that's usually what you want to start with, right? So, I don't know, maybe on a Path to Glory campaign.
Whoa, it's like they planned that?
I know. I was blown away by that fact too. But that's a good place to start. And what I would say is, to be honest, what looks cool. Like, go for what looks cool to you.
Yeah.
Right?
When we talked about this in the Discord, Tristan, Tomb King Tristan, he had this great little format for how to get somebody into it. His idea was expose the folks to like the Hey Woa videos for each faction, or 2+ Tough to get some lore background, and then ask them, and what seems cool to you now?
Yeah.
What do you think is cool? And then you can explain to them how that faction works, and, sort of pull the information out. What other games do you play? How can I relate it to something that, if you're coming in from Magic, how can I relate it to that? If you're coming in from 40K, it's real easy. You know a lot of the systems, and hey, Stormcast are Space Marines. Tzeentch is Tzeentch. Nurgle is Nurgle. And so you can there's commonality there. Wow, English words are hard. Tristan said, after you've pulled all that information and exposed them to some of the lore, ask them again, what do they think is cool, before they spend $100 or maybe north or south of that a little bit on a getting started box, and find out that's not really the style. Really tease the information out of them. So I thought that was a good comment from him.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. One of the things you always want to try to avoid when you're helping someone get into the hobby, as well as, if you're just starting out, is you don't want to succumb to information overload.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there, and you can go look up anything that you may want to. And, you know, maybe you're someone who can absorb it all and really hold it in and just internalize it and think, okay, after processing all my possible options, here's what I want. To be frank, you know, and I think Tristan got back to that where he said essentially like, cool, now go back. What looks cool?
Yeah.
Right? Because you could sit there and like, oh man, the OBR stuff is super interesting. You know, it's like Nagash trying to sort of bite his thumb at Sigmar a little bit by being like, oh yeah, these guys are sort of like bastardizations of what Stormcast are. Ha 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 ha. Oh, I really like how Teclis is always trying to do the right thing, even though he's an egotistical maniac, right? But what looks cool, you know? And then also too, because you're going to get into painting and everything too, you're going to want to consider, have you painted miniatures before?
Yep.
Right? Because painting Lumineth Realm Lords is
daunting,
real hard.
Yeah, and you know, you can look at it from that again, you know, find out what they play or what they have played before and you know, kind of tease out of them. Do they want a fast, hard-hitting army? Do they want a slow, resilient army? Hell, if you want slow and resilient, here's a box of Nurgle. Easy to paint, easy to play, and reasonably forgiving to mistakes.
Agreed.
You know, whereas, you know, if you want fast, hard hitting, Lumineth Realm Lords are not for you.
Yeah.
You know, you have to play them well. Same, you know, Stormcast, you have to play them well in order to make up for their issues, their problems. Tzeentch, Slaanesh. You got to be really good to get into these guys, and you have to be good at painting to make them look like the box art. So, you know, tease that information out of the people before you give it. And also watch your own confirmation bias.
Yeah.
If you're stuck on, hey, my flavor of the week is Stormcast, so I really think you should look at all the pluses of Stormcast, don't do that. You might be leading them down the wrong road for them.
I had a situation with a new hobbyist. I mean, the kid plays 40K already. I think NIDS. And that was the day I had my molder there, right? And so I had my painted models out, and you know, their mom's super supportive of the hobby, and she's like, "Oh my God, rats! I love rats. We had, you know,
Wendy.
pet rats,
Okay, yeah.
And you know, she's like, my other son, you know, he wants to do AOS, but he doesn't know what to do yet, and he had a pet rat, so I'm going to see if he really likes this stuff." And so I let her take pictures of all of my models.
Yeah.
I showed her, you know, ways to get into it, you know, depending on what you want to play. I mean, I said all the clans end up mixing at the end.
Yeah.
So mixing clans is the best. But, you know, like here's some certain inroads, you know, so like I actually using the Packmaster kits made a master molder, you know, just gave him the whip and the thing grabber and put him on a 32 mil with a giant rat attached to his hip, you know, because master molders are hardly ever in stock. Again, stop buying all my models, people, please. I need to get this up. Yeah, and this like that day came in, bought a Rat Ogre pack. Then he's, you know, picking up Storm Fiends and stuff like that, and he doesn't know this yet, but when the Death Masters were available earlier this week for like 20 minutes, I bought him one.
Oh,
So,
nice.
You know, I was like, oh, it's only $20, and the kid like was like, I love Eshin, they look so cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you'll need a Death Master for sure.
Nice.
And you're gonna want to save it for a Vermin Lord, but you know, seeing that they're hardly ever in stock, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this for him. You know,
That's nice.
but that's exploring it. You know, it's like he was looking into Eshin, and now like, oh, he's like Molder's really cool too because he's reading through his book. But he was sold right away.
Nice.
Like Skaven, like I'm in, all in. They're so fun, right? And some people are gonna have that, you know,
Sure.
or they look at everything and they're like, man, wait,
Hold
those
on.
rats look really
Yeah.
cool with the guns on their arms. Or like some people look at the Iron Jaw stuff. I was kind of taken by him too. That's why my wife actually was like, I want them. She loves
Yes.
orcs on either side.
Sure.
Right? Oryx and orcs.
Yep.
Those just caught her. She saw the Maw Crusher and she was just like, that thing. I want that thing. And I want the guy who looks like him on foot. And I want the pigs. And I'm like, okay, honey.
Okay, whatever you want, dear. Yeah, that's why my wife started Skaven. Was she was totally intrigued by the rats, and the thing that got her was the Doom Wheel.
Oh, yeah. I
She
love
was
that
like,
thing.
I have to have those. So, you know, off I went and bought her an army, and she painted the hell out of it. She played it at LVO. She played in that first LVO tournament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She went 1-3. she dropped out of the last game. You know, it was just too much for her. So, and she wasn't in danger of winning or even affecting the outcome. Neither was I, don't get me wrong. So, but yeah, she had a good time and she liked her rats. She painted the hell out of them. She also does Tyranids in 40K. And Charles Fox said, you know, again, when you're bringing a new person in, don't always aim for that 2,000 point beat face game. And here, you're new to this hobby, paint up this 150 models. You know, start at the 600 point range, maybe the 1,000 point range. Think about what it's like to be inundated by all of this. I have to do all of this before I can play a game. And again, if you're bringing somebody new into the hobby, you explain to them that at events, there's usually a 3-color minimum. When we sit there at the store and throw down, gray plastic is just fine. Just get them built as step one. And then we'll work on, getting stuff painted and work on it if they're brand new. I mean, if it's somebody that's been playing 40K or War Machine or something, they know the steps.
And they will.
Yep.
And also, too, got to give a shout out to Charles for, helping us rename an endless spell. So in the Discord, we're talking about endless spells and Charles, Charles brings up Soul Shackles. Well, his phone didn't let him actually say Soul Shackles.
No.
So now, heretofore, folks, it is announced, and we're going to push for this to become actual
canon.
like FAQ. It's now Soul Chuckles.
Soul Chuckles. They are no longer shackles. They are Soul Chuckles. That was so. Oh my God. When you started that, I was taking a drink of my soda here and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to spew. That was so funny.
Oh, my plan to kill Bill failed again.
Nah, sorry. I'm more resilient than that. Not much, but more. So you've got the person hooked. They have their getting started box, or, you audience member have your getting started box. Now you have to build your models. We're just going to give you some quick tips on building models. And one of the things I'm going to say, and you'll hear this opposite a lot of times. And they'll say, oh, just start with the most basic tools. All you need is a cheap hobby knife and a cheap set of, side cutting pliers and some cheap glue. No, stop. You will frustrate yourself so quickly building GW models when you have nothing but cheap tools. Tools are something that you will use for a lifetime. They are an investment. Get some decent tools. And by that, I mean, buy the Games Workshop mold line remover because it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's their best tool by far. After that, don't get any more GW tools. They are just incredibly well logoed, but they are of no more value than their generic cousins. My suggestion is Army Painter has a great box of tools that are decent enough quality to get you through your first 1,000 models. And then, you might decide someday you want a better set of this or better that, and it's a tenth of the cost probably of the GW stuff. I will always tell people, instead of buying an X-Acto knife and paying the high price for an X-Acto knife and then paying the high price for their blades, which come in sets of 5, go to Amazon or your local equivalent and buy a set of scalpel blades. They come in hundreds, and almost always they have a reasonably inexpensive yet incredibly useful handle for scalpel blades. And you have a relatively useful set of knives that will see you through everything. And the beauty of scalpel blades is they are amazingly sharp, kind of because they're scalpels used to cut people. It's very evident when they get dull. An X-Acto knife, the only thing that happens as it gets dull is you have to put more and more pressure to make it do what it does. And that's usually what leads to injuries, is because we are using so much pressure to cut with. With a scalpel, you'll know immediately when it is no longer cutting well. And you'll just flip that blade off, throw it away, put the new one on there because you bought 100 of them. You got enough for almost a lifetime. And you have spent a third of the cost of X-Actos.
Yep.
Another thing about GW models, and I see this a lot, and it's funny, almost every video on building models I see, they do it right. But every time I watch someone at the store, they do it wrong. You don't want to cut the model off the sprue right next to the piece itself. You want to back off 1/8 of an inch and snip it there.
Yeah.
And then you use your hobby knife to cut off the little nub that was left behind. If you try to flush it right up to the part and snip it, you're actually going to you're going to see it. The plastic around that area is going to turn white because it deformed.
Yeah.
And then you're going to pay hell making that part mate up perfectly to the other part and then smoothing out where you did that cut. So back those clippers up a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. What else you got? Anything for building?
Look at your gluing options. I know that I really do like the plastic glue from GW that melts the plastic.
Yep.
Not just because, one, I think it's got one of the best holds because you literally melts the plastic together.
Yes.
But it's also useful for situations where you want to deform the plastic as well. So like I think like Nurgle stuff, if you want to like make something look like it's literally melting, you actually have something that does that. But you also are going to need your other types of glues. You can have some super glue. I usually keep like a precision point and a brush glue. You know, maybe some of that concrete, not concrete, was it? Like liquid concrete kind of stuff where it's like super thin, but it's going to like seal that thing down. Because while you may not do it for your first set of models, you may actually start expanding into bases, like
terrain
basing
and you know stuff like that. Yeah.
And so you're going to want to have the different kinds because you might like, I'm just going to plastic glue everything down to the base and then I'm just going to slap some of the texture paint on the bottom. That's easy. I do that as a quick paint scheme too a lot of times. But in terms of, you know, like, are you going to do like a customized base for this particular model?
Yeah.
If you do, then make sure you have your other glues because once you get everything primed, paint and stuff, your plastic glue won't mean anything.
Right.
So I would say make sure and research what kinds you'll need.
Yep.
And then just have them in various forms because if you just have like a standard Gorilla Glue, the tip's not going to be precise and you're going to get too much goop everywhere for a miniature. So make sure you look at your options.
And, you know, two things I'll hit on that. I did a video on YouTube a long time ago about glues. And I make it pretty plain that if you use super glue to build GW models, okay, leave the hobby now. Oh, God, I hate that. It just drives me nuts seeing people super glue models together. But also, if you take a bottle, and I recommend the Tamiya cement, the liquid plastic cement. Again, it's one of those that melts the plastic. You take a bottle of that, and you take one of this leftover sprues from your kit that you just built, cut the sprue up into small pieces, open up the Tamiya thing of plastic glue, dump all the sprues into it, you know, about fill it up. I would say have the bottom of the jar be filled with sprue and just let it sit there for about an hour or two. And what you'll end up with is very thick plastic glue that has the sprue melted inside of it. And this is amazing for filling gaps and getting rid of mold lines. Yeah, you're going to have to sand it down a little bit, but it's way better than having this big gap in some of the older models that we play with.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely do that. It's awesome. Another thing you can use plastic glue for, especially the thin GW stuff. But again, I would suggest the different Tamiya because of the brush applicator. You can use it to remove mold lines really easy.
Yeah.
You just brush it on and don't touch it. The mold line will literally go away and then it will dry and no harm, no foul. So it's super easy. So that's building. Let's get into painting. And let's not do a whole show on painting, which is going to be so hard.
So, I mean, with painting, there's any number of techniques you can use, brushes you can use. The research is out there. People have their preference. Bill's got a few recommendations about how to handle the brush situation. But as far as it goes, you know, again, if you're just starting out, let's say you're at a Warhammer store, you know, they'll have like a starter set of paints that you can get. Just so that way, you know, like, okay, this is this goes with the Stormcast I'm doing, right? It's the basic Stormcast scheme, right? But other than that, I mean, if you're going to use Citadel paints, and I know we'll talk about not necessarily relying on them, but if you're going to use Citadel paints, the paint is on the website. So if you're looking at this model, like, all right, how do I do this? They have the original method
list
and the contrast method.
Yep.
Right? So you can see, okay, so these are the paints that I'm going to need that they recommend that I use for this. Right? So you can use that as a guide. Or maybe you want to do your own thing.
Yeah.
Look it up online. Look at, don't try to say, like, I'm going to walk in here and I'm going to be a Vince Venturella in terms of painting.
Yeah, right away.
That man's been doing this for decades. So you need to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
And again, don't fall into your analysis paralysis thing.
Yep.
Where you're just like, God, there's just so many different ways I can handle this. That's why there are test models.
Yes.
Right? Get some paint on something and just see how it works.
Paint comes off.
It does.
It's acrylic. So yeah, it's don't let the anxiety get the better of you. And I do it all the time. I sit there and think, oh, I don't know if that scheme will work without ever trying it. And I'll sit there and think about it for days. And like, no, just throw it on the model. God dang it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
So when I started painting, I mean, it was daunting to me, but I just essentially followed what was on the box. I started by painting some Kyric Acolytes is what I started with. And I was like, okay, so the box says to do this, so I'll start doing that. And like, I don't have a steady hand. I'd never painted other than like maybe in high school in an art class. Like, but I had never put paint on a miniature before then. And so I just started following that. And so again, I'd have the steady hand, not like my wife who essentially got like a surgeon's hand with how steady she is. But like it started to come through. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to understand it, And so it's just repetition, paint the models. And I got a tester, like Liberator from the store. And so we had primed that and I was just like, all right, well, how does this paint look? All right, how does this paint look? How does this paint look?
Yep.
And so that thing is like, it's like the ugliest thing I've ever seen at this point. But we always use that like, all right, I need to see how this goes over this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Just play with it. It is daunting, but it shouldn't be because it's a hobby. And one thing I will definitely say about painting is never, ever, ever, ever compare your journey down the painting road with anyone else's.
Correct.
You're going to be where you're at skill-wise, and someone who's been in this for 10 years longer than you is going to be better, just flat out better. Whereas someone who is only a day into the hobby is going to be worse than you. Comparing your work to someone else's I hate it. I absolutely hate it. This is why we have painting competitions where we have people who don't know you from anybody, and they will judge your work with an unbiased attitude because they're just looking at the technique. They're just looking at the color choices. That's all there is to it. That's why we have a hobby track in ITC. That's why most events have a hobby aspect to them so that you can get that feedback and don't worry about it. If they say it didn't meet the standard to move up to the next judging level, ask them why. What do they think? What do you need to work on? It's not an insult. It's a commentary. Now, if someone's being insulting to your paint job, throat punch them. They're just being a jerk and we don't need them in the hobby. If someone's giving you constructive criticism about what I would have done with my color choices was, okay, take it and learn from it. And don't feel like you have to take it, but you do.
And that's if you're really getting into that side of things, right? Mm-hmm. There's some folks who paint and never expect to enter into, a painting competition, right?
They don't care.
Like for some of my armies, I'm just like, I just need them painted so I can put them on the board and it's not just plastic.
Right.
Right. So I'm just trying to get some paint on them and it's, rough and dirty, but it looks good enough from 3 feet away.
That's
so, I'm okay with it. And you should be.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, was I say the cardinal rule of 3 feet away?
Yeah. The 3 foot away rule that's the cardinal rule of painting. If it looks good from 3 feet away, that's all you need.
Yeah. And if you down the road in your journey through painting, if you're going into competition, I mean, you're going to be painting for up close, right? And so like the way you work the model is going to be completely different compared to someone who's just playing to get models on the board. And you know, it's also art at the same time, right? So experiment, try and do new things, right?
It's your art.
Yeah. Like I've seen some like paint schemes that you would never expect on something. You're like, that works. I just don't get it, but it works. We had a girl who came down the shop every so often, but she's pretty big online. I think she goes by Psycho Squirrel. Natalie, that's her name.
Yeah.
All of her orcs are like pink skin, super bright, you know, and like I never would have thought of that. But then you look at it and be like, hey, that works. Like it's different, it's unique, it's her style. And she just took to it and ran with it, right?
Yep.
So don't be afraid to do that.
Yep.
Now, in terms of tools to help you along with this, Bill, what do you recommend?
Well, here's the deal. You know, I'm going to tell you to go watch videos about painting, and I will literally say start with the GW videos. Then go to the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy and watch some of his free videos, and then throw money at him and watch all of his videos. All of them. Now, go to someplace like Sonic Sledgehammer that does fast paint jobs, but good looking, and see what you kind of want to do as a style. And then forget about all of those other paint channels that are out there, all of the experts, all of the elitists, because all of them have their own opinions, and you have to form your opinion. Ignore theirs. There's a lot of hate out there for GW paints. Okay, there should not be, because they are perfectly good paints. The pots suck, but you know, that's neither here nor there. You can make them work pretty easy. And then you'll have people that will tell you, never use GW. They suck horribly. You can only use Army Painter. That's the only good paint out there. Okay, maybe try a pot of Army Painter and see what you think. Personally, I think Army Painter doesn't cover well enough. It's not opaque enough.
Okay.
GW has a great range of paints. When they say something's a base color, it's going to cover something in one, maybe two coats. If it's a layer, you're going to have to play with it. If it's a wash, it's a wash. You know, they have everything labeled so you can get your way through it. After that, there are tens of thousands of paint makers. Hell, Duncan Rhodes is going to come out with his own paints. Monument has Pro Acryl. There's There's Vallejo. There's like 57 different ranges of Vallejo paints. There's AK Interactive. I could list paints for the next half hour, and I have a bunch of them. And honestly, not a single damn one of them is any better or any worse than anyone else's until you make the decision about what you like in a paint.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for brushes. I tell everybody all the time, buy one brush from a certain paint range or a paintbrush range and see if you like it. Every paintbrush range is different. You'll see people swear that you can only use Winsor Newtons, or you can only use the Monument Bomb Wicks, or you can only use Raphael's. And if you don't like them, well, then why are they the only brush? Again, ignore the elitists. Buy one. Brushes are expensive. Buy one. See if you like how it works. And by the way, I would suggest either a 0 or a 1 size brush for your first brush from every range. And then buy into the brush range that you really like. Some people fall in love with Army Painter brushes and just buy all of those. Some people love the GW brushes and just buy those. Okay, whatever you like, whatever works for you. Don't listen to anybody that tells you what the best brush or the best paint is ever.
And so from there, you know, like, again, you're just getting started. You're going to learn new painting techniques. And usually the basic ones are base, shade, layer, highlights, right? And that's sort of like the basic process for all of it. But then you're going to learn some other techniques. How do I glaze? How do I make a glaze? How do I make a wash versus a glaze? You know, there's a whole bunch of techniques out there that you are going to learn.
Yes.
So be patient and just, you know, start with the basics. And then when you feel like you've got a handle on them, things are starting to look good, that's when you step your game up.
Yep.
Right? It's just like when you're playing the game. You're going to need to take it in steps.
Yeah.
And there's any number of useful tools. And, you know, Bill and I have talked about in previous, well, we're like Bill ranting about how wet palettes are necessary in New Mexico. And boy, howdy are they. It's like my cooler's still broken. So we had to get a new contractor to come out because the last one is garbage. but this new one's got much better reviews, much more responsive and, professional. But anyway, that's a whole separate thing. But like, it's hot in the house and it's a dry heat. Paint's drying up like that.
You pour the paint out and it will dry.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're just like, not before it hits the palette, please. Bill tossed me one of the Army Painter.
Oh, the wet palette.
Yep. And that thing's been super helpful. Most recently, I've been painting with like a lot of dry brushing, so that hasn't been too much of an issue. But when I was using it, when I was painting up my dummy Stormcast for, how I'm going to paint them, I had to use that, because I was using lighter layer colors and those drying out super quick. I'm like, I'm just wasting paint.
Yeah, you're throwing it away.
Yeah. So it was super helpful for that. I was like, damn, like I needed this and I didn't know I needed this. So that's a good way to go. I mean, you've also got like the GW palettes. You got traditional palettes. I've seen some guy use egg carton, like a plastic egg carton, just because it doesn't, absorb the paint or anything. So do your research.
Yep.
Look at your options. If you need something that's more compact, look for that. There's some bigger ones out there too. Yeah. Like there's a product for everyone.
You betcha. And don't be, if Juan Hidalgo says you need this kind of paint, okay, take that with a grain of salt and use what you have. You will achieve a very similar effect. Now, I mean, if he says use this contrast and you're using a base paint, you're going to get a different work. But, it's one of those deals where you can fall into this trap of buying paint until you're blue in the face, and you find one day that you have 57 blues that are all the same shade from different companies. And honestly, what have you done? So it's a great trap to fall into. Trust me, I love it. It's fun. I love to collect paints for some odd reason. I'm going to kill Troy because he got me into the pro acrylic paints. I tried a few and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with this paint. I am truly in love with it. So yeah, that's my new kick. But you're going to find what you like, and don't let anybody pressure you to do more than you're capable of, but always pressure yourself to make the next model a little bit better than the one you just did. I finished my Liberators. They're test models. I think the test came out okay, and by the time I did the 5th one, I had the system. So now when I do those Vindictors,
yeah,
the V guys, I expect to get better results from that first group of 5 of them than I got on the Liberators, because I know the steps now. I know what I'm doing. I have my methodology down. So I expect to improve with that set. And then the next set of 5 will be even better. And then I'll do Yanjasta and it'll look like crap. I'm kidding. It'll look, like junk. But literally, I could list off YouTube channels until I was blue in the face, and then get feedback from half a dozen listeners that there's like 500 more channels that are better than the ones I listed.
Yeah.
Find some YouTube channels about miniature painting, and I'll give you some tips. Again, I said Sonic Sledgehammer, Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. Ninjon is a great one. Juan Hidalgo. If you want to do contrast paint to a level that's amazing, get it, Juan Hidalgo. Squidmar does really great stuff, and he's super funny about it.
Yeah.
Miniac has kind of stopped doing painting videos, but his back catalog he's nuts. He's crazy. He's probably certifiable, but he paints really, really well.
Oh, yeah, he does.
So look at those. And then the nice part about watch a few of those videos. And then, of course, YouTube will start inundating you with different miniature painting videos. And then flip around. Find the channel that you like. Find the guy that has the technique that you like, or gal. And then just start learning from that person. And then pretty soon you'll know what you want to do and where you want to grow to. Just let it happen. And don't feel any pressure. If someone gives you constructive criticism, take it and learn from it. So now how do we go about playing this game if we're new? What do we do?
Well, a number of different ways to go at it. And I was just thinking just now about other ways to get into the game, because we talked about just, start collecting boxes. But, Warcry's a thing.
Yeah.
So is Underworlds, right? And so there's some folks who may not want to actually do the full tabletop. And there like some folks who are just sort of sticking their toe in, like big Kill Team fans.
Yep.
Like Warcry is actually, based on what we've seen in the preview stuff for the new Kill Team coming out, is that the Warcry rules have influenced how Kill Team's going to be playing moving
betcha.
forward.
Boy, have they ever.
So that's a really good way to just get some miniatures on the board, start playing with them, small skirmish combat, and then you get to see the aesthetic of that army that you're painting.
And the real beauty of Warcry is the books for the armies now, or for the alliances now, have everything that you can play in Warcry from every faction. So if you kind of want to get an idea how Kharadron Overlords play a Warcry game with them. You're out the cost of one box and not a whole army's worth, not even a getting started box. It's usually just a group of normals that you can then turn into and proxy into other things. Play a game with them. While Warcry doesn't play the same as AOS, it is familiar enough that you will get an idea of what they are like in AOS.
Yeah, it's sort of like it just really boiled it down to its just constituent parts. You could see sort of the natural flow from playing Warcry up to playing AOS.
Yep.
There's a few extra steps in there. It's not as much rolling, of course, in Warcry.
Right.
But it's a good entrance point. And so I say that now as we're going into starting to play the game, because these two board games are a good way to start, sticking a toe in.
Yeah.
Maybe you only have a box of Clan Rats, right? Because that's all you've been able to buy because you don't have the Clan Pestilence getting started and you're playing Skaven, right? Warcry is a way to start, doing that. And then, now you got your leader in, right? You bought your Warlock Bombardier. Okay. So you can play that in Warcry, and you can also start seeing what that does on the tabletop. You're able to sort of flow between these games, and you can even do it vice versa, where, like, oh man, I can't get a 600-point game in anywhere, but someone's going to play Warcry, and so you've already got those points, they go into Warcry.
Yeah.
But what you need to do is, of course, get your battle tome, get your core rulebook, right? And read through them, and just realize you're going to make mistakes at the beginning, right? But just get games in, put models on the board, paint it or not, try and do what they do, but start basic. Yes. Don't try and get into your battle tactics, your grand strategies, anything like that. Start on a smaller board size.
Toy Soldier Fun Harry was like, when you're starting out, ignore the points. Just do kind of real super open play stuff. Learn the basics first, and then start looking into the rest of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it will come to you, and you will make mistakes, like you said. Don't worry about it. It's a game.
Oh, yeah. And one thing that could be helpful if you're super dedicated to making sure that you just become a better player, frankly, journal about it afterwards in a way.
Yep.
Keep track as you're going through the game. Okay, here's what I did in this round. Here's what happened. Here's what they did in their round. This is what happened. And so you start to understand, because you could look back and be like, oh, so that's how that worked. What was the result? What could have changed? And it's a reflective process.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with just writing it down. In fact, I think studies show you write stuff down, you remember it better.
You remember it well. Yeah.
And you internalize it. And
you may find that all your problem comes from deployment. You just don't deploy well. And then you can work on that aspect and grow, learn from there.
Real quick, I just, since, we touched on open play, I just want to kind of go through that because we actually haven't talked about that.
We didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. On the podcast yet. Actually, not a lot of people are talking about open play from what I've seen, because they're like, they touch on it because Path to Glory, it's cool, it's narrative, or like we're just match play because we're competitive.
Right.
Open play is really dynamic, even though it's so basic. So how it works, and this is from the core rulebook, okay? So you have your different points limits. This one does 750 and then 2,000. I'm sure you could go back and just work with the other charts you've seen. This does allow you to use War Scroll battalions as well as core battalions, right? So it's sort of like in between narrative and not. And then you can always just have gentlemen's agreements, house rules, like, we're not going to do War Scroll battalions or whatever. But then it actually has a generator for making the battle plan.
I love it.
So it's super dynamic. It's not tied to a narrative. It's not like you're trying to go hardcore, competitive. To me, it also feels pretty strong in terms of being able to think about your army in different ways.
Yes.
So how it works is you have a map table. One player rolls on the map table. There are 6 different options. They all have super dynamic territory and deployment.
They are crazy.
Then there's a victory condition. So the players roll off, and then whoever wins that rolls the victory condition. There's a number of them here that are all sort of like different things. So like War of Attrition, that one is just pure kill points.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the victory conditions are really interesting, dynamic. It's fun, and it's like, again, all a D6 situation. So I like when you have generators like that.
Yep.
They
always used to make wow, English are hard.
Yeah.
They always used to have those decks of open play cards.
Yeah.
And those super good for throwing down those pickup games. Love those things.
Exactly. I mean, this is just sort of an internalized, thing where you don't even purchase the additional product. And this is also something they could expand on too. Like, here's some more open play scenarios. They just kind of like pepper those into various publications. Like, think about like, that's a perfect White Dwarf situation, right? You can have like a totally like new table for victories, or the next one is twists.
Yeah.
Twists are really cool.
They're fun. That's where it makes the game so interesting.
Yeah. So again, it's just another D6, super simple. The description is the twist is a rule that applies to each player during the battle. It could have a significant impact on the battle depending on the types of unit the players have included in their armies, right? So for example, number 4, eager for battle. Add 1 to run and charge rolls for friendly units. Holy cow, that's really good. Because that's just on the board.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That could make, oh man. Oh yeah, that's fun.
And then grudge match. You can reroll battle shock tests for friendly units.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun things there. And the thing that, oh man, that gets real spicy is the ruses.
Yo.
So a ruse is something that each player rolls for, okay? And you keep it hidden from your opponent until you decide to employ it.
Implement it, yes.
Right? So what it says here is the description. Before the battle, each player rolls on the ruse table. Your ruse may prove to be a valuable ace in the hole when you need it the most. So for example, let's say you roll a 2, reinforcements. Once per battle, at the end of your movement phase, you can pick one friendly unit that has been destroyed and that is not a hero or a monster. You can set that unit up again, wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches away from all enemy models. Right?
Yay!
And so, and they talk about it, and they're like, what we recommend doing is maybe using a dice cup, rolling and like putting it down, and then you can peek at it, but your opponent doesn't know what's there. Awesome.
Yeah.
After that, you do have an arcane prize table. I should say this. They talk about deployment. It's super basic. It has to be within your territory, more than 6 inches away from your opponent's territory. So super simple. The arcane prize table then comes after that. It's only used if you roll the arcane prize result on the victory table.
Yes.
So there is a victory table for this entry. The true nature of the prize is only revealed once one army seizes it. As always, there's a certain amount of risk involved in meddling with ancient relics.
I love it.
It's got a little spice on it, right?
Yeah.
So super simple to do pickup games.
Yep.
Dynamic deployment. If you're not too keen on, the Vice, for example, you don't want to jump into the match play battle plans. This is a good way to just like randomly generate something.
Just go to town and have a little bit of fun. One thing I will say for this new version, between the General's Handbook and the core book, they are showing a lot more willingness to have fun with the deployment zones and the maps themselves. Yay. I hated that. Start on one side, start on the other side, meet in the middle, kill each other. Yay. Okay. Wow. Yeah. There's a lot more variety now. So open play is definitely a great way to introduce someone into the game without having to inundate them with either the matched play rules right away, or even the Path to Glory system might be a little much for somebody to swallow right off the bat.
Yeah.
So you plunk down an equal, if you're teaching someone to play and they have a getting started box on the table, let's not bring our 2,000 point army. Okay. Let's bring our 600 point army and let's think about our list a little bit. And, I always have that thing of, if you're doing a demo game and you win, you failed.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. So,
you're going to have those people who like to club baby seals, who just come in and they're just like, cool, I'm just going to wreck you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I'm not going to try and, have a little give and take. It's like, my goal is to just utterly destroy you.
I just need another win in my book.
Yeah.
So you drive so many people out of the hobby when you do that. And the idea that you don't care usually means you find yourself playing alone after a while.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
And so it's two-sided, right? So if you're the new player, right, don't be disheartened. You're going to get things wrong, that kind of thing. Hopefully the person playing against you knows, and they aren't just going to try and wipe you off the board. I see that happen all too often. Whenever I'm helping someone learn, I always, it's where you do this. Make sure you do this.
Yes.
Hey, stop. You forgot your rule. Let's go back. Make sure you do that. Okay, so, what does this unit do? Does it do it in this phase? So if you're the person helping, be helpful.
Yes.
Right? It's not just like, yeah, sure, you could steamroll them. You're playing slaves and they're playing squigs, right?
Yeah.
And you've got knights and you've got the Chaos Lord on Karkadrak, and you're just going to obliterate them if you touch them, right? Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Give them some leeway. Know that you've got the resilience in your chaos list, that you're going to be able to weather the storm. It's all about, again, building a community, right? There's a time and a place for competitive, right? It shouldn't be a narrative, and it shouldn't be with new players.
Right. And that's the whole thing is, if you're that new player, when you play that demo game with the store owner, yeah, you're going to win. Don't take that as you're super good at this game. Okay? You haven't found your calling in life. Maybe you have. I don't know. Maybe. But understand that when you start to play a wider range of people, you're going to run into all kinds. Yeah. And you're going to run into people who will punish you for not knowing your rules as well as they know your rules. Mm-hmm. And you'll find as you go through your journey in this hobby that one of the big things is not just to know how your army works, but have a pretty good idea of how all the other armies work. Because if you have no idea what the Kharadron Overlords are going to do or the Slaanesh Demons are going to do, they're going to surprise you with all of their tricks. Now, you may know your tricks, but if you don't know theirs, you could get caught out. Don't get disheartened. You have to play these games to learn how different things work. Just reading about it doesn't work. Seeing it in play, especially in the hands of a really good driver, is eye-opening.
Yep.
And learn from that. Understand that, oh my God, they can do that. I have to watch for that. So don't expect to win a ton of games at first, but also understand that you should be playing people that understand you're new.
Yeah.
And if the group that you're in right now doesn't get that, and they're just gleefully taking your toys off the table for no fun, and you barely see turn 3 on any of your games because you're dead by turn 2, maybe look for a different group, because that group might not be the group. I mean, if you're in a group and they are solely focused on winning tournaments, they're one of the hardcore, hey, we go to all these major tournaments to win. Some of those guys can't throttle back. They don't know how to play that lower level game. And don't think of it as this guy is a jerk. Think of it as this guy is always in that mindset of trying to win a tournament. Maybe talk to them and say, hey, can you take your foot off the gas, or are you not capable of doing that? And, some guys are going to be straight up with you and say, no, I can't. I cannot use all the tricks my army has and use all the abilities, because I'm actually using every game as practice for Adepticon.
Yep.
And understand that, and don't think the guy is being a jerk for jerk's sake. He's literally in a different place than you are, and find someone else to play until you are at least average and you can give that guy a challenge in a game. So, don't just think just because this guy clubbed me, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
It may be just that his mindset is not where yours is at. And honestly, when you start a game with somebody and you're real new, make sure you tell them, I'm really, really new at this. I always tell the story of when I played Ben Moley at LVO. My first game of AOS at a big tournament was against Ben Moley. And everybody was coming by going, oh, I'm so sorry, man. Oh, this is going to be so bad. And I'm like, why? Is he really good? I didn't know him. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, he's pretty good. Okay. Ended up being the best game I've ever had, because I'm like, hey, this is my first tournament game of this system ever. And what he did was he throttled back. He knew he was going to win the game, but he throttled it back and said, all right, let's have some fun. Let's learn this game. Let's play 5 turns. Okay, cool. We had a grand time. And I gave him my best opponent vote, because he really did throttle it back, turn it down, and say, let's play for fun. Understand, though, that some people can't do that. And, just find a different group, go to your local game store and say, hey, do you know anybody that plays not cutthroat? And chances are your friendly local game store will know the right people to put you in touch with.
Yeah, usually they will. Another thing, too, is as a new player, it would behoove you to try and play as many different armies as possible, just sort of echoing the point you made, Bill, where you're going to need to learn what the other armies do.
Yeah.
Right? And not saying you're going to memorize what their army does
No.
just because you saw it played once. And you may not know if it's being played correctly, but the thing is you at least get to experience and understand a little bit more. How do I anticipate that army? There's very few armies out there that are so tricksy that you're not going to eventually be able to figure out what they do just from observing players play them.
Yep.
Again, as you get better, the gap between you and the competitive player is going to close.
Yep.
And so when you're actually understanding, you have internalized more of what the system is and how things work, even if you still lose to the hyper competitive player who's just hyper precise and all those things, you're still going to have gained more because you know more. And so that expands what you can read.
The biggest trap you can fall into when you try to get better at any game, I don't care if it's racquetball, tennis, Age of Sigmar, 40K, if you constantly play people that aren't as good as you or are right at your level, you will stagnate. And then when you run into people who are really good, they will clean your clock and you'll be wondering why. Always try to play up. You'll learn a hell of a lot more from people who are better at the game than you. It's one of those deals. Yeah, it's not always fun to go into a game knowing you're probably going to lose. Use it as a learning opportunity. Use it as that idea of, I'm going to get better because of this loss.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself. Always.
As you play more games, you may find out that, like, as much as I initially like the aesthetic of this army, they don't play how I want them to. And don't be discouraged.
Yeah.
Right? There are plenty of, places where people are willing to trade armies for you to sell armies so you can repurchase things. And in a way, like, I think that's some of the virtue of when you have like the dual boxes like Dominion, right? Or the getting started stuff.
Sure.
You get two armies that play very differently.
Yes.
And you get to experience both sides of that. If you just get like just a start collecting, then obviously you don't have the benefit of two separate armies unless you buy two start collectings.
Right.
And so you may be like, you know what? I really wanted to get the Deepkin, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to paint eels. But now that I've been playing Sylvaneth, I realize I really want those eels.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
And, you might find that the first army that you start is not the one that you end up liking, simply because as you get more familiar with the system, different things appeal to you, and go with it. And, I know lots of people, even at our local store, that have 2, 3, 4 full armies, and they will bring it and let you play it.
Yeah.
And you can get a feel for how these things work before you take that plunge. It really is a nice community. And I'm not just talking about our own local one. I'm talking about worldwide. People that play miniatures games are by and large nice folk, and everybody understands what we're here for. The fringes, the baby seal clubbers, the guys who can't throttle back, the weird games are few and far between.
Yeah.
One thing I want to go back to before we close out this section, one of the users on our Discord, Sever, and this goes back to getting someone into the hobby. I put it in the wrong section, but he did something that I thought was so cool. What he did was he made a slide deck with a model from each of the factions, along with a little summary of what their lore is like and what their play style is for people who are new to the game.
Yeah.
And I think that is just so. I think every game store should have something like that, so you can flip through it and go, oh my God, Seraphon are the coolest looking things ever, and they play just the way I love. So, I mean, that could be super helpful. I wonder if that's something we should put like together as a downloadable resource. Might have to talk to him about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at it and see if we can get that compiled.
Yep, but I wanted to hit that real quick. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about how to go loring. And loring is like how to learn AOS, the history, where the players are from, who these names are. Like when we say, oh, Teclis is such a jerk, and Nagash is a butthead, and Sigmar is a fool. If you're new and you don't know who these guys are, we're going to give you some ideas as to where to go and find all that good information out. But first, we're going to eat. Okay, so last up, getting into the lore of AOS. And this is super easy. Read your codex.
Yeah.
Read the core rule book. That will catch you up to where you have a vague idea of where everything is right now and what the mortal realms are and who the key players are. But there's also a lot of other resources out there. You know, Black Library has a lot of AOS books, a very good selection right now, and it's getting better. You know, one of the things that has miffed a lot of people over time is that when they blew up the old world, yay, and started the Age of Sigmar, well, they said basically the lore sucked. Well, yeah, there was 30 years of Old Hammer lore and, I don't know, 6 months of AOS lore. It's starting to get better.
Yes.
Writers are finding their stride, they're finding their styles, and so the stories themselves are getting better. Some of them are still tough to read or listen to. Others are amazing. Like Plague War is a great book, and in it you will learn to hate Stormcast. Nurgle. Sorry. You will learn to not like certain Stormcasts because they're basically armed with rocks for brains. It's kind of interesting to get that viewpoint of the two different sides, the Stormcast and the Nurgle side. Then you had Soul Wars come out, which is a whole different kind of Stormcast viewpoint, and it's the death view of the world. So just look through Black Library, or my personal suggestion would be to go to Audible.
Yes.
And then see what the reviews are for these different books and then pick up those. But honestly, if you want to do it inexpensively, read that core rule book. The lore is all in there.
Yeah. And, you know, aside from all the publications GW puts out, of course, there are going to be some wikis online that can help guide you some places. Of course, it's a wiki, so be mindful.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of folks who have devoted a lot of time to looking at the lore on YouTube.
People doing Sigmar's work.
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah.
You know, in fact, when I first started getting into this and I was trying to figure some things out, I listened to 2 Plus Tough. I still do. I think he's fantastic.
Yep.
He's a wonderful human being. The way he tells stories keeps me engaged.
Yeah.
And he's so good at internalizing, you know, what he's read and then telling it to you.
Yeah. Doug has that great ability to tell a story that you already know because you might have read it, and still make it interesting and fresh and worthy of the time it's taking to watch it or listen to it.
Yeah, and it's great for just listening to on long drives because, you know, it's not like you need to be like staring at the screen.
Right,
like, he'll have images. Sometimes it'll cut away to him, you know, talking to you. But like even just like listening to it while I'm driving is like super helpful. And it's sometimes really nice and calming just to like not think about the fact I'm driving to work. You know, I'm actually able to just really think about what I'm getting from that show. Haywo's a great resource too.
Oh, Haywo has got some phenomenal, his faction breakdown videos. If you're trying to decide whether or not you want to play, you know, Slaves to Darkness, watch his video and he will let you know. He will tell you what you need to know and whether or not it's going to work for you. He does great videos.
Oh, yeah.
Love them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, good lore videos too.
Absolutely fantastic. And I think we forgot to touch on this in the previous section, but battle reports. There are some narrative battle reports from quite a few places. Like Mini Wargaming has series of narrative battle reports.
Yep.
Right? So you involve some of the lore and their ongoing lore with actual games. So you actually get to mix a whole bunch of things together with those. The guys at Rerolling Ones, of course, fantastic.
The best, absolute best bat reps.
Oh my God, they're so funny. And they always have a really nice comedy skit, you know, on the intro. Just hilarious. I watch them a lot too.
They make me laugh every time.
Oh God. Yeah. Fantastic.
Also, you know, for lore, if you want to ingest it in podcasts, The Mortal Realms.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Great show for digging into different aspects and good stuff. And, you know, I have forgotten the name of the show. I'll put it in the show notes, but Kenny Lull does he does breakdowns of books and he talks to the authors and all that other stuff. So definitely a good resource there. Again, we're going to say it. We keep mentioning these different YouTube channels and podcasts. Don't take it as gospel because, like you said, for everyone that we tell you about, there's going to be 5 more that are just as good or better, and we just haven't heard about because there's just so much out there.
Yeah, there's one I actually became acquainted with recently that was really good. It's Seasons of War, and they do this really great thing where I apologize, I forget their names, but the guy who runs it, his wife does a narrative voiceover at the beginning as they showcase the armies.
Oh, nice.
And then she also does the voiceover because they don't sit there and like play the entire game in front of the camera.
Yeah.
They'll actually like go to a cutaway where they'll like explain what's going on, and she'll give the overview of it, and then they'll like do a little like narrative hook, kind of at the end, where like, the forces of Nurgle fail to, fell the trees this turn, and Sylvaneth is looking to push in, So they do things like that, which is, it's so great because you get, frankly, very competitive players, but they inject the narrative into it.
Right.
So I recommend Seasons of War. I think they're really great.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check them out. I think I've seen some of their stuff, but I don't think I'm subscribed. So I will, though.
Yeah, start at the 3.0 stuff. I think they started with Skaven versus Sylvaneth, and they've done like Nurgle versus Sylvaneth. Most recently, they had Host of the Everchosen versus Disciples of Tzeentch.
Wow. Okay.
Archaon is a freight train.
That's why I wanted to marry him.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think he's only good for a one-nighter. But anyway, and then that's how you get into the lore. And all this stuff is all going to come together. You're going to start finding out things like as you look through all the Stormcast chambers, you see like, oh my God, this paint scheme is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I actually like their lore. I want to play them. So all that stuff's going to come together, because it is all tied together. While you may have your certain ideas as to what you may want to do, you'll be surprised because the game will suck you in different ways. Yeah.
You may find that, you want to start out with Nurgle because that really flips your switch, and 2 months later you're playing Tzeentch or you're playing Kharadron Overlords or Fire Slayers because they actually are the way you want to be. So don't worry about it too much. The buy, sell, trade aspect of this hobby is huge. There's entire Facebook pages, websites devoted to buying, selling, and trading armies. Again, like I said, this community is by and large really cool. If you agree on a good trade with somebody and you ship them all your stuff and they ship you all their stuff, chances are it's going to work out. I mean, you'll hear horror stories now and then, but honestly, I've never had it happen and had great transactions with everybody that I've ever traded with. So it's out there. And yeah, once you get into the lore, you never know what you're going to find. So honestly, with that, I think our 10,000 foot view of how to get into the game is over.
Yeah, I think so. Gone through quite a bit here. And of course, if you're listening to this, you can jump on the Discord, bunch of great folk on there, all willing to help you out, getting you ideas. We kick ideas around over there all the time. It's really fun. And again, thank you to everyone who did donate to the raffle for a great cause. And we just want to say thank you again.
Yep. And I have a sealed box of Cursed City that's ready to go out to the postman. So somebody won it. We can't say just yet, and this is not the last raffle we're going to do because I have more stuff. Third Dominion box might have been a mistake. Seeing as you can pretty much buy one at any game store. But anyway, you win a few, you lose a bunch more.
Yeah.
So I got more Cruel Boys. That's all. So.
Oh, I mean, they're really cool.
Yeah. So thanks everybody, and we will see you next time. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can reach us at our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/rollingbadpodcast, all one word. Our Patreon page is at www.patreon.com/rollingbadpodcast, again, all one word. The Twitter account for the show is at rolling_bad. And our individual Twitters are for me, at Bill Castello, BILLCASTELLO.
And you can reach me, Joshua Alt, on Twitter at Anoyoe, that's at ANOYOE. On Instagram, I can be found at Heretic Model. On Facebook, I can be found as Joshua Alt.
All of our guests on the show will have their contact information in that show's show notes. The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.